This is Toledo SymphonyLAB, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's principal second violin and artistic administrator Merwin Siu. We also have the TSO's marketing director Felicia Canny, and we have a SymphonyLAB newbie, that is Kalindi Bellach, who is box office manager and program annotator. And last but certainly not least by any means, joining us by phone is a TSO favorite, the wonderful conductor Giordano Belincampi. Welcome, everybody.
Great to be here.
Giordano, where are we talking to you from right now? I mean,
right
we're
now,
in Toledo, but where are you?
yes. Right now, I'm at home in Copenhagen, Denmark.
Ah, how's the weather in Copenhagen?
Oh, it's nice spring and quite sunny today, so it's beautiful actually.
Yeah, well, it's that time of year, starting to ease our way into spring. So hopefully it'll be nice when you come here, which you are doing this weekend to conduct the Toledo Symphony. This is a concert that includes the famous Scottish Symphony of Felix Mendelssohn, also the Overture to Medea, an interesting opera by Luigi Cherubini, and the Piano Concerto No. 1 of Ludwig van Beethoven. And you are joining with the wonderful pianist Leonardo Colafelice, he's been here before, right?
He has.
Yeah. Can you start by maybe telling us a little bit about your collaboration with Colafelice, because I know that you've worked together a few times in the past.
Yes, well, I met Leonardo the first time some years back in Milano. He's still a very, very young and wonderful, talented musician, but at that time he was even younger, like we all were, of course. And I have to say I was astonished not only by his mastership, technical and virtuosistic on the piano, which we can meet with many musicians these days. There are a lot of really, really talented and good musicians, but also his maturity in phrasing and shaping the music and the way he interacted with the orchestra. So we worked really well together during that period in Milano, and then we have been working together in many other orchestras since. And amongst those also once before in Toledo. And I'm so thrilled that we will be back with the Beethoven concerto. It's a wonderful piece, the C major concerto, and I'm sure that people, even if they have heard the concerto many times before, they will truly enjoy it. And if they haven't, it will be a great way of introduce the new audiences to this masterpiece by Beethoven.
Well, Beethoven wrote 5 piano concertos, basically. People are probably most familiar with the last one, the Emperor Concerto. And this is the first one, and I think it's kind of an undiscovered masterpiece for a lot of audiences. What can you tell us about this particular concerto, his first, entry into the genre, as it were?
Yes, although it's actually practically not really number 1, because number 2 was actually written before, but it is a very classical concerto, very inspired, of course, by the music of Mozart, particularly, but shows Beethoven at his best, his creativity with his favorite instrument, the piano, and the interaction with the orchestra. Beautiful way of, within the classical form and the strict rules that are within the classical form, of exploring all of that. And I think it's extremely honest piece of music. It really comes straight from the heart, although it is a composer who always also uses his intellect. So it is indeed a great piece.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite movement? Because I've got them lined up here, and I want to play just a little excerpt.
Oh, yeah. Well, definitely not. Second movement is incredibly beautiful. I always enjoy that, and also the interaction with the woodwinds, the way that he uses the clarinets and the strings.
I have to mention that this is not the Toledo Symphony. It's not Leonardo Colafelice. It's not Giordano Belincampi. I don't know who this is, but it will give a little bit of give us a little bit of a taste. Now you can sort of hear a little foreshadowing of Beethoven's emotive ability in this concerto. It goes just a step beyond the second movements of Mozart concertos.
But it actually does sound a little bit like a Mozart aria from one of his late operatic arias.
It does?
Exactly.
Yeah, you want to expound on that, Merwin?
No, I don't think so. I think at this point, I would be speaking to people who have significantly more expertise in Mozart arias than I do. But it just strikes me a little bit like maybe it has that kind of singing lyrical quality, and it reminds me of Mozart's woodwind writing as well.
Well, it's interesting because almost everything Mozart wrote is like an opera aria. He was thinking opera the whole time. And Beethoven, I don't know. I don't always hear that operatic quality to it, but I do hear the Mozartian influence in this. What do you make of that, Giordano? The opera connection to Beethoven's music.
What is opera? And this is, of course, really relevant when we speak of the inspiration that Beethoven found with Cherubini, and this is why we have paired this concerto with the overture for Medea by Cherubini.
Oh, so you did that on purpose?
Definitely on purpose. So Beethoven was highly inspired by the dramatic sense of a composer like Cherubini. Yeah. Not so much in the sense of the drama understood as modern theater as we see it today, but if we look at it from the perspective of the late 18th century and the beginning of the 19th century, then it's the way of building big arches of speech or music within the music. And that is what interests Beethoven. So in that sense, I completely agree. It is very operatic, but of course, in a completely different way than what we understand today after having heard Wagner and Verdi and Puccini.
Yeah, well, that's true. We have to put it in context. As I understand it, Beethoven thought that Cherubini was the world's second best composer, right?
Yeah.
So you can guess who was the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you have that overture from that opera on this program. The opera Medea itself sort of came back into the spotlight with Maria Callas and her great portrayal of that.
That's one of my favorite operatic recordings. It's just stunning.
For people who don't know it at all, can you paint a little picture of this Medea, of this overture that we're going to begin the program with?
Yes. So the opera is, of course, very very dramatic. It's a terrible story about the mother who kills her own children, and the drama itself is very strong, which we also hear in this overture. Starts right away with huge dramatic movements. It has beautiful song lines, cantabile lines, truly Italian in the way, but also this grandness, big scale, which is so typical for the French opera comique, which it was originally. So it kind of contains many of the aspects of the opera history here in the late 18th century.
Yeah. We should mention that opera comique does not mean that it's a comedy, right?
No, it's definitely not. It's a way. It's a structure. The structure of an opera which is different from the Italian opera seria with the recitativi with the harpsichord or the hammerklavier, whatever they used at the time.
Right. Let's pivot back to you and Leonardo Colafelice. I can't remember what it was that you did last time in Toledo. Can you refresh my memory?
Oh, actually, I remember vividly sitting in the audience watching the Prokofiev. That was
Prokofiev.
Yeah, I think that's what. And Leonardo's fingers were just like flying, and it was exciting to watch him perform on the piano. And of course, the orchestra sounded great, and Giordano just tied everything together.
Now, did you have the TSO and HD cameras on his fingers at that time?
I don't remember that. I do remember the TSO and HD cameras on Giordano.
Yeah.
Maybe I watched that the whole time.
I'm curious, Giordano, does having the camera on you, like maybe showing your face and what you're doing that the audience doesn't normally see? I mean, are you conscious of that while you're conducting here in Toledo?
So let me be completely honest. I try not to be conscious on that because it is actually a little bit scary to see myself blown up in that on the side of the stage. And also sometimes there's just a fraction of delay due to the to the electronical system.
Yeah.
So sometimes it feels like what is this man doing? It's not at all linked to music.
But you look great.
So I try not to focus too much on that, and generally it's quite easy because we have plenty to do on stage. And
so in other words, you were saying I hadn't really thought of it until you brought it up. Thanks a lot. Yeah, well, it's interesting though. I think that it enhances the experience for the audience goer to give them something to look at, that visual element, that close-up element, because it makes you feel like you're kind of there with the orchestra, and it really helps people immerse themselves in the whole experience.
I do think there's also a lot of people who enjoy being able to see the hands of the pianist. And for those who aren't able to be on that particular side of the stage, it gives them that chance to kind of see just the prestidigitation and all the movement and the arpeggios.
Ooh, fancy word.
I know, huh?
Prestidigitation. You get a little applause for that. Definitely.
Giordano, you're also performing with Leonardo around the world, correct?
Yes, we've had concerts in different places, and it is, as you said before, it's always a treat. He's such a genuine musician, and also a very fine chamber musician in the way that he interacts very well with the various orchestras. Sometimes we have played the same concerto, 1 week apart in two different cities with two different orchestras, and it's very obvious to hear how he interacts with the various orchestras, as well as having, of course, his own grip, his own view of the concerto, and that I think is a very fine quality in a musician, to be able to, in a soloist, to be able to interact and get inspiration, as he also gets from the wonderful musicians in Toledo. So we are looking forward to that.
Do you often find yourself, you pair up with your favorites, or you have favorite pianists, violinists, that sort of thing? Are there people that you tend to work with over and over again?
Yes, of course. Well, you see, as a conductor, especially after a couple of decades on the podium, it happens that you find yourself feeling free and inspired in making music by being with musicians where you have a good musical relationship. And this is for orchestras as well as for soloists or instrumentalists, singers. And it is always interesting to meet new people, which of course we do regularly, meeting new orchestras and new soloists. But it is also wonderful to be part of a joint development, musical development with colleagues, and that I find it a great privilege.
Yeah,
I think it's worth kind of tracing the long history that Giordano has with the Toledo Symphony, which unfortunately I didn't prepare before walking into this. But it's been, I think, almost a dozen years, and so many different concerts. The repertoire has ranged from all of these different pieces. We've done Christopher Rouse, we've done Strauss, we've done Respighi.
Yeah.
Wow, Rouse and Strauss. You made a rhyme.
That was unintentional.
You should do it. That's your program right there.
Yes, rhyming composers. Bach and Bloch coming next year. No.
I get. You heard it here first, folks.
You'll get credit. Okay. But I think just the sheer breadth of repertoire that we've been able to explore together, I think it speaks to the idea of when you develop a really strong relationship between musicians, whether it's between a conductor and a pianist or a conductor and an orchestra, you always want to explore that and push that further. So.
Yeah, well, I was counting Toledo Symphony in that crowd of people that you are comfortable working with. So I assume you have a very comfortable working relationship with our symphony here, Giordano.
Definitely,
yeah.
Definitely. It's always a pleasure. It's always inspiring. And also very, very inspiring to be on the podium at the Paris side with the audiences. So, yes, great.
So we haven't yet talked about the Scottish Symphony, which is sort of the big symphonic centerpiece of this program. And there is a lot to talk about. Mendelssohn, you've got the Italian Symphony and you've got the Scottish Symphony inspired by his journeys. There are a lot of travelogues in music. This one inspired by a trip he took to Scotland, I guess, in the 1820s. Does anybody want to give a little background on this particular symphony? Kalindi, you're sitting here. You're the program annotator. and coming into this, I was scared to death. I was thinking, I can't make any mistakes because she'll immediately know. And
I will not.
Okay, well, then that's great. You can come in. You're welcome to come back anytime.
Thank you.
But who wants to talk about just the genesis of the Scottish Symphony?
The Scottish Symphony, I mean, a lot of people assume that it's about, his trip through Scotland and of the countryside. But that's not necessarily the case, is it, Kalindi?
It is not. He was there on a trip with a friend, another composer, and he started there. He wrote, I think the first 20 bars or something, and then he put it away and he didn't write anymore on that for years. And I think he said something in a letter about not being able to find his way back into the fog of Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
And later, he worked on it more later. And in a review following, Schumann actually wrote a whole thing about how it was inspired by Italy because that's where he was when he wrote it. And
wow.
It is actually really funny with Mendelssohn's symphonies. There's just this, you see, this is his first symphony, his second symphony, his third symphony, his fourth symphony, his fifth symphony, and they're all mixed up. His fifth symphony's more, I think it's better to think of it as a second symphony. The third symphony, definitely, even the Italian in some ways in terms of
he worked on them at the same time, and he revised so many times both of them that it's kind of hard to say this one was first, except that he numbered them or they were numbered for him, I guess.
It's basically an Abbott and Costello running joke.
Exactly right.
But it's interesting, you mentioned, Kalindi, his letter where he's talking about not being able to get back into the haze or the fog of Scotland. And some of his other writings from the time, he said everything here looks so stern and robust. Which is an interesting pairing of words, stern and robust, and, half enveloped in a haze of smoke or fog. And I want to hear just the opening of the Scottish Symphony. And you can sort of hear that. There's sort of a tragic Highland quality to all of this. A castle on a hill enveloped by smoke and fog.
He visited the palace at Holyrood and was talking about, again, in another letter home, talking about the history of that place, Queen Mary being crowned and
wasn't that the inspiration for his little snippet of music that he brought back with him? Giordano, you still there?
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm just listening. No, well, you see, I think often we forget the fact that Felix Mendelssohn was an incredibly active musician. Although he only lived for 38 years, he has probably has more importance to classical music and to orchestra than any other composer, I would say, honestly.
Really?
In the sense that the way that he has, first of all, established the whole institution of a symphony orchestra, truly trained an orchestra, which he did in Leipzig, and working on actually establishing the whole idea of an orchestra as a personal identity, not necessarily linked to a composer playing his own music. The way that he took the music of Bach and brought it back to light.
Yeah.
All of his strict way of understanding how we write, but also how we interpret and read the music of other composers, I think is very often understated. And there would not have been any Wagner or Bruckner or Mahler or Richard Strauss without the way that the approach that Mendelssohn had. It was very different than the approach that Beethoven had, which was very much linked to his own music and performing his own music.
Yeah.
And I'm a great admirer of Mendelssohn, also because I actually think he was probably the first real conductor. He's kind of the father of all of us, because he was very interested in interpreting, reading, and interpreting the music of other composers, and that is really interesting. His own music is always very inspiring, and the fact that he revised all of his works so much is something that we also see from other conductors like Gustav Mahler, for instance. He also always revised things and revised other musicians' works.
He revised other musicians' works. That's interesting.
Mahler, he instrumentated. He changed instrumentation in practically everything that he performed of other composers, because he saw here, like, if Beethoven had the chromatic possibilities of the horn today, he would have done this, or the timpani would have played this note.
Right.
So you're not planning to do that this time, are you?
No surprise.
No.
We're text for this. Okay. Good.
I find that this, of course, we have this thing about the Scottish and the Italian symphony and Reformation and all that. There, of course, there are themes somehow, but it is very absolute music. And this symphony, the A minor symphony, is really gorgeous. And especially the first movement, you just played the opening. The first movement is such incredible, strong music.
Well, while we're on the subject of Scotland, I do have a little quiz. We got to do a quiz with every one of these broadcasts. And Maestro, you're certainly welcome to participate. This is a Welcome to Scotland quiz. Basically just questions about Scotland.
I haven't traveled enough.
Bring up a little music in the background. That'll help us out. Now, when you think you know the answer, just go ahead and blurt it out. Which language is the official language of Scotland? Is it English, is it Gaelic, or is it Scots? A, B, or C?
I'm gonna go Scots.
I'll go Gaelic. I'll go Gaelic. Is it English? Wow. I don't feel like I get a point for that.
Twice?
I don't think I get a point for that.
Well, you get half a point because Gaelic was actually admitted as another official language on par with English in 2005.
Oh, okay.
But it was English.
I was definitely thinking post-2005.
Yeah.
That was my context.
So what is the official currency of Scotland? Is it the euro, is it the pound sterling, or is it the Highland?
Actually, we should be careful about what date this is, right?
Yeah.
We are currently pre-Brexit. Okay.
Yeah, but Scotland is not Brexiting.
Yeah.
So, euro, sterling, or Highland?
I'm going to go with the euro. Oh.
Ooh.
Pound sterling.
Yes.
Bravo. Giordano gets a point. Okay. All banknotes issued by the Bank of Scotland have a picture of a person on the front. Is it Rob Roy, Ivanhoe, or Sir Walter Scott? A, B, or C?
Ivanhoe is fictional, right? So Sir Walter Scott?
One for Merlin. Yeah, Walter Scott wrote Ivanhoe.
Yes,
and
I think it would be
Rob Roy.
very difficult to do a picture of Ivanhoe.
The national drink of Scotland is whiskey, which in Gaelic is Uisce Beha, which that's about as close as I can get. What does that phrase mean, Uisce Beha? Does it mean good health? Does it mean water of life? Or does it mean let's drink?
Water of life.
Water of
Very
life.
good, yeah.
Wow, I am not even playing.
Well,
Water of life, like Aquavita,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Or
But I kind
Aquavit.
of feel like, it's funny when the musicians are in the Toledo Symphony, like in the the spelling bee, the symphony musicians always do really, really well with anything involving alcoholic beverages.
Wow. Interesting.
Okay, so what is Scotland's national animal? Is it the lion? Is it the red deer? Or is it the unicorn?
It's the unicorn.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Kalindi on the board.
Yeah.
It was one of those random facts that I absorbed and have never let go.
Wonderful.
Okay. Just a couple more here. What is the most common surname in Scotland? Is it Scott, or is it Smith, or is it McIntyre? Scott, Smith, or McIntyre? Most common surname. Or is it Belincampi?
It's probably
Yes,
Bellingcampi.
Belincampi. Could be Smith.
Oh, wait a minute. It's Smith. Belincampi gets another point. So far, Giordano and Merwin are tied, so here is the tiebreaker, if you can do it. Which of these is an actual old Scottish saying? Okay. Is it, I'm fair puckled? Or is it, wits fur ye'll no go by ye? Or is it, skinny malinky long legs? Or could it be all of the above or none of the above?
He so rarely puts none of the above.
I know. I feel like this is
feel
a
like it's
trick.
none of the above.
None of the above.
Oh.
Oh.
What do you
That was
say,
leading.
Giordano? We'll give Giordano a chance to win here.
Probably all of the above. I have no idea what you're saying.
I have no idea what you're saying.
And I feel like that's a fair summation of all of the quizzes that we ever have.
It's all of the above. I'm fair puckled means I'm short of breath. Wits fur ye, no go by ye. What's meant to happen will happen. Sort of like que sera, sera.
Uh-huh.
And the last one, skinny malinky long legs, is what you say when you're talking about a tall, thin person. I wouldn't know nobody's ever called me that. Skinny malinky long legs. But if you know any tall, skinny people, that's what you call them.
I will use that moving
Okay.
forward.
No, you won't.
Well, there is our welcome to
I feel
Scotland
personally
quiz.
attacked.
Well, now that we have Giordano on the line, I just want to give him the last word before coming to Toledo. What do you want audiences to know and to look out for and to maybe have their ears peeled for at this concert, Giordano?
First of all, of course, enjoying the musical connection of the pieces. I think the overall art of the evening is really great, and the drama in the symphony. Maybe if I have to give a little hint for a little quiz, a little Scottish quiz, would be an instrument that is not present on stage, but is actually almost heard in the second movement of the symphony. There is a small signal of a very particular, very characteristic Scottish instrument in the second movement.
Are we supposed to guess? Is it the heckle phone? No.
No, you're supposed to come to the concert and listen for that.
Okay.
And then call into the radio station and say, "Oh yeah, I could hear the."
Perfect.
Okay. Well, we won't say what it is then. It'll be a mystery until they hear what it is.
Sounds great.
Well, Giordano Belincampi, we're looking forward to having you this weekend, and thanks for joining us by phone from your home out in Copenhagen. We're going to see you soon. The concert again is this weekend, Friday and Saturday, April 5th and 6th, 8 o'clock p.m. at the Peristyle. Conductor Giordano Belincampi with pianist Leonardo Colafelice performing the Piano Concerto No. 1 of Beethoven, also the Symphony No. 3, the Scottish Symphony of Felix Mendelssohn. This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. And remember, you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at toledosymphony.com and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. My thanks to Merwin Sue, Felicia Canny, Kalindi Bellach, and our guest conductor for this weekend, Giordano Belincampi. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.